right, that we're live. Now, let me just make sure, since we had to do it this way, that we're actually on. God, that's twice in 3 days. Please, Mother Mary. Here we go. Oh yeah, we're on. Okay, so let me give people a couple of minutes since we had a false start, and let me share it into the network, and then we'll formally roll the show out. It's an exciting show. There's a story behind it, which is cool. All right, let's see. Okay. All right. 7 people. Hello, Angel Divine, Angelita Rubalcava, Karen Starr, Andrea Falcone, Anja de Montara, Leslie Zerman. If these shows resonate with you, please share. Hello, Robert Hoff. How you doing? Good to see you, bro. Yeah, we had a false start. My internet went down for the second time in 3 days, but we're good. And we have a Ethernet cord, so we shouldn't have any problems. And if we do, we will just bob and weave, right? Hello, Sherry Whiting, Ontario, Canada, Shannon Corona. All right, Michelle Smith. So there's a story behind this show today before I rolled out. And that is last year in my, not anymore, but when I was still following that voice as we've all followed and trying to make sense of it on a human level. Why are you telling me to go here? Why don't I have any money? What's going on? I was in Sedona. I was only there like 2 days. I was at Whole Food Market, and I was walking out of Whole Food Market, and this car pulled up to me, and the window was down, and this crazy lady starts telling me, hey, I'm so glad I finally got to meet you. I'm like, what? I didn't know we met. And so she introduced herself, and I introduced myself, and I think it was the first time I ever been anywhere that somebody actually recognized me due to Soulogy. And so she said, I was at home. I remember this. I was at home, and I told my partner, I've got to go to Whole Food Market. And they said, why? And you said, I don't know why. I just have to go. And so we met in the parking lot. You were leaving, and I think you were going somewhere, or you were getting ready, because not me saying, hey, let's do a show. I remember that. And you're like, I've got this weekend, this retreat at my house. This is what I do. I do something with sexual healing, basically, very general, because I know it's more specific than that. And that was the last I saw of her. There was no cards exchange or anything. And so then I hit a wall a month ago. I don't know what happened. Yeah, I hit a wall in the end of the month, and there was like 6 shows I just couldn't do. I had to redo them, and so I was rescheduling it because Morgan left, and 2 things happened. One, I scheduled this sexual practitioner, sexual therapeutic practitioner who's on right now. On the same day, the only other show I have is a sexual therapeutic practitioner, which was the earlier show. And then when I looked at her name and it said Sedona, I thought, that's the woman. I bet that's the woman. I said, have I met you before? She said, yes, in the parking lot at Whole Food Market. So here we go. Everything's
full
perfect.
Circle.
Yeah, full circle. So welcome, Sandra Rolus, to SoulSpeaks 5D. Thank you for honoring us with your presence and sharing space with us today. Sorry about all the mix-ups, but the best thing comes when we keep pushing through.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Todd.
Yeah. And how long have you been in Sedona?
I've been in Sedona about 4 years.
Oh, so because I asked you before the show, what kind of accent is that? And you said Belgium. And I said, it was to me fairly undetectable, and nothing wrong with accents. They're actually cool. And then you said you'd been in the States 4 years. So you've been in Sedona the entire time?
Yes, that's correct.
Wow.
Ever since I was a child, I had a fascination with the United States. So I taught myself to read and write English. And I remember having a pen pal in Ohio when I was a little girl. So
wow.
Now it all makes sense why I was so fascinated with learning English and wanting to do it on my own.
How did you decide on Sedona?
Well, December 21st, 2012, I wanted to be in a high vibe place, and I had a few different locations on my list. One was Chichen Itza, the other one was Machu Picchu, and the other one was Sedona. And I just followed that internal voice, and I came to Sedona. And it was a bit of a love at first sight with Sedona coming here.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely has a very strong personality.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
But that was 2012. Did you come then, or did you come in 2014? 15?
Well, I came as a visitor between 2012 and 2014. I came about 5 times as a visitor. And then my partner at the time was living in Los Angeles. We hadn't met yet, so we met through mutual friends in Sedona.
Oh, wow.
A really magical story how that came about. And then by the time that he was moving to Sedona, that's kind of when our relationship took flight.
So you're in Belgium.
Yes.
You obviously, if on December 21st, 2012, you already figured out something's happening because you need to follow this voice. How long have you been a practitioner?
Well, I've been the eternal student. And actually, at one of my many trainings that I was doing, I met this person who really said, okay, you have to stop doing these trainings. You can do these trainings, but you have to start doing your own thing. And that was back in 2013 when I actually started doing workshops and offering all kinds of offerings in Belgium. So, and then coming to Sedona, I had to start from scratch because nobody knew me in the United States. So there was about a year of just like percolating and just feeling into the energy. And Sedona is not a town where you can get weekly groups just from locals. So you have to depend on the people that come from outside of Sedona. And when I was living in Belgium, I had this large group of people that would come to all of my workshops. And I had workshops twice a week. Anytime I would organize something, there would always be a full house. So coming to Sedona, that was a big shift.
Wow, I bet. Yeah. That's pretty gutsy. So I'm going to come back to that and what you do, but I want to hear a little bit about your partnership. I mean, so did you know them before you came the first time to Sedona, or did you? Okay, so you came to Sedona, and your efforts cleared space for this light to come in, or whatever you want to call it. And so you met them through friends. Did you meet in Sedona?
It's an interesting story because when I was still living in Belgium, I already made an internal decision that I was not going to stay in Belgium. I wanted to move to a place that was more high vibe, that was more connected to nature. And at the time, I was looking into the south of France, Italy, Spain, in the Mediterranean area closer to Belgium because I have my family and I have my kids there. And America was not really on the radar as a place to move to. But then when I came December 21st, I came to a place called Angel Valley in Sedona. And I brought my kids. And at this event at Angel Valley, I meet this young lady, and we're just looking at all the artwork that's on the wall. And I'm really fascinated with one of the paintings on the wall. And the girl says, you know what, I'm going to connect you to the artist because she's a friend of mine. And that turned out to be my partner's daughter. And that is how we got connected.
Wow.
So I mean, you can't even imagine a story like that. It's like you just have to trust and surrender that, you know, if you need to meet somebody, you will.
Yeah, I can imagine it. And there's been a few people on here that's very similar vibration. Now, what was it like the first time? When did you get sight of them the first time? I mean, like, when did you get sight of them the first time, be it on video or phone or Facebook or whatever, and when did you figure out something was going on?
So I connected with his daughter, and we were friends on Facebook, and we were just, liking each other's posts, and not really a deep contact. But at a certain point, I saw a picture of her with her dad when she was a little girl, and I'm like, that's an interesting person, but I just let it go. And then shortly thereafter, she sends me a message And she says, I think you should meet my dad. And it took me about, I think, 1.5 years before my partner confessed. He said, you know, I have to set the record straight. I was the one that asked my daughter to be connected to you. So I always thought it was a really interesting story. I'm like, wow, the daughter's the matchmaker, but it was actually her dad that asked to meet me.
So he was stalking you.
Well, I don't know, maybe. But I think, you know, when you're on Facebook and you're a single woman, you get a lot of private messages. So I think he went about it in a smart way.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so where did y'all meet the first time? Was it in LA or was it in Sedona?
First time we met was in Sedona, but we had like a long distance phone relationship in the beginning. And we hit it off immediately. It was very interesting. And then we hit our first trigger point where he triggered something, an old wounding inside of me, an old trauma. And I was like, this is not going to work. I cannot be in a relationship with you. So we kind of broke it off, but he was really curious about it. And he was the first guy that didn't step into his ego. And we kind of lost touch. But at the same time, I was going deeper into my own shadow work, my own inner work, working on my childhood trauma.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I think it was about 9 months later, we met up again in Sedona, and he was living in Sedona by that time.
Oh.
And for me, I just got this message like, okay, he's the one. And I didn't see it coming, so it took me completely by surprise. It took him by surprise. And then we kind of just rolled with the punches from there on and worked around the long distance relationship until we made it work and I came to Sedona.
So last question on that. Did he know, do you think he knew, or at least, well, sooner than you did, that it was meant to be, or that it was who you were to him as you found out who he was for you?
It's interesting because the initial feeling was that it was magical. And then I just hit into that trigger point, bringing up that trauma, which totally pulled me out of that feeling. And then me working on the trauma allowed me to connect back to him on that level. And that's actually a lot of the work that I do, is helping people to get out of the trigger points, out of the knee-jerk reactions that trauma can trigger, so that they can be in alignment with who they really are and attract the people in their lives that are actually meant to be in their lives.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty impressive to go through something of that depth and be able to reconnect. So was it a situation, I don't mean to like draw light to this situation, but I mean, as people can learn from it, was it a situation, regardless of the type of relationship, was it a situation where when you were triggered that the focus was on him initially and you were like, no, I don't want to have nothing to do with you? Or was it something where you just said, I need to go take care of myself?
No, I was blaming him in the beginning. Because I still needed to do that shadow work. And when you need to do that shadow work, it's so much easier. It's just almost like an automatic reaction to blame somebody else.
How long did it take you? I'm just curious, because I've not talked to anyone with this type of experience that, you know, that it's so, you know, so easy to understand. How long did it take you to get to a point where you realized it wasn't him?
Well, it took me, there was a gap of 9 months in between the last time that I saw him, me doing the work, and then reconnecting with him. So I think it was about 9 months. But I'm a bit of a go-getter. I like being on the fast lane. Once it comes up, I'm like all in, super committed.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it is that I did not do my shadow work because I wanted to be with him, because he was off the radar.
You did it.
We broke the connection in that moment while I was doing my work.
I mean, but did you get to a point when you were in your shadow work and said, oh, by the way, like your higher self said, oh, by the way, when that all happened, when this all started, it wasn't him?
No, I have to be completely honest. No, that wasn't coming up. But I do remember when I started doing my own sexual de-armoring, and this was, you know, I went on another training, and it was an ayahuasca weekend, and there was a lady from Denmark, and she was talking about the work that she was doing, and my whole being was saying, you need to do this, you need to do this. And another part of me was saying, no, 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 I don't want to. There was this internal battle going on, because I was scared, you know, on a subconscious level. You're scared to give up your identity that is linked to that victim consciousness. But I did it anyway. You know, I'm very much, you know, feel the fear and do it anyway. And it was so surprising to me when I met back up with my current partner that, wow, so this whole, what my higher self must have orchestrated all of this just to get me back to this point.
And so from there, you really started to go into the sexual de-armoring. Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
And
so
I know, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I know when I met you that you had just had a retreat, or you were about to have a retreat, and one or the other. And but it seemed like you really, I mean, my impression from you was that you were really comfortable with what you were doing. You were just like, you definitely were following spirit. And but this is something you've expanded in Sedona. Can you tell us what it is, what your clients go through, or what you went through, and how it works, the process?
Yeah, so there's multiple aspects to what I do, and sexual de-armoring is one of them. So when we work with clients, either in a group setting or individual clients, usually what we need to do is we need to go to the foundation of where the trauma originated. Because a lot of the time, before people come to a point of sexual trauma or feeling sexually unsafe, there is already something that happened in their childhood, or something that happened when they were in the womb of their mothers. So my retreats, the 5-day retreats that I offer, we start at the beginning. We start with looking at the birth story, looking at what happened in the womb space and what kind of beliefs you picked up.
Yes.
And there's also transgenerational and ancestral healing.
Yes.
Because a lot of the time, when you were in your mother's womb, she got all her beliefs from her mother or grandmother, and so on. So these are important foundational sessions to do before we can go really deep into the sexual de-armoring. Now, I have clients that are insisting on doing the sexual de-armoring, and we can, but usually we do other sessions as well to go more to the deeper levels of it.
Let me ask you this, okay? Because this is a really deep subject, and the sexual energy, I think everybody kind of agrees now, is what was suppressed the most, and thank you for your patience.
Yeah, I lost you there for a minute.
Here we go with this energy. It's who we are. It's this energy, you know, the energy. I'm really getting that this is very important. So when it comes to that, we know what that has been our biggest burden and is our biggest blessing in so many words. In your own right, it strikes me that you must have been alerted early in your path as a practitioner and as a whatever you said in the beginning, a student of expansion or whatever, that you had to have been aware of some of this. You must have worked on it for a long time. Did you get to a point like up to the point when you got triggered by your partner? Did you get to a point where you felt like you had dealt with it all, and did something come in and surprise you, or that was there beneath all of the shadows that you just didn't get? And can you kind of talk about that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because it was such an important puzzle piece for me. Because doing all the trainings and all the work, I was more focused on opening up my heart using my voice again, being self-expressed, tapping into my intuitive abilities, my connection to the higher realms. And to be very honest, I hadn't done a lot of deep shadow work. So what happened, meeting my partner, that just triggered the whole series of events where then at that time I started doing the deep shadow work. And what was interesting was that all the work I had done on the higher chakras, the higher energy centers, all of a sudden everything started clicking together.
Yes.
So I think there's no, you need to do this first or that first. There's no right or wrong. If I see my own path of evolution, I was focused more on the higher energy centers. But once I started diving into the shadow work, everything started expanding, and it was just wonderful. But I had to get over that threshold of fear to go into it. And I've always been blessed having really good teachers and trainers, space holders. Yeah, it's amazing.
So you were aware. You just, at least, somewhat aware, and this was a subject or an area you just feared going into, really, until you were put into.
Yes, and the thing is that I feel like in the intimate relationships, all of our stuff comes up, and we either walk away from the relationship when it comes up and it's too challenging, or we're committed. We're like, okay, I really like you. I want to make this work. And if two people are on the same page and they want to make it work, you can take it a long way. Now, for me, I had this pattern of stepping out of a relationship, or the relationship would end, and then I would go into my cocoon and do my own personal work. And I feel that with the deep shadow work, sometimes it's easier when you're single to do it. Yeah. Now, when you're already in a relationship and your partner's on the same page, wonderful.
Yeah.
But in an intimate partnership, your stuff will come up because you're a mirror for each other. You're reflecting that. And you will always attract somebody on the level that you need the clearing or the healing or the expansion. So he was coming to me at the perfect moment to just push that button, and I just lost it. And then my higher self orchestrated all of these other things that I was like, okay, I'm going to dive into it, but not with him in mind. So I did it for myself. And I think that's an important part as well. All the clearing, all the healing, whatever you want to work on, do it for you, for yourself.
Yeah. God, what is going on here? Gotta be kidding me. Oh my God. Hang on.
I can still hear you.
Oh, you can? You can hear me?
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening.
Yes.
Did I say anything bad? I was like cussing, was I?
No.
I'm not even going to worry about it. I don't understand what's happening here. I'm not meant to understand what's happening here. I think that's a big part of this whole trip, is just not saying I don't understand. Just take it in. But so yeah, this is really fascinating because it brings the individual. It also brings the couple aspect. It also brings the journey of your work aspect into it. What's the difference? Would you say is like now that you are cohabitating and in the micro of it? I guess on a smaller level, because you're still together, that these things pop up. Do the partners still show the shadow to each other? How do you, as an individual, handle that? How does the masculine, or in this sense, how does he handle that? What does that look like? And
well, I think I'm in a very unique position where my partner is also committed to doing the work. So we have certain agreements. And number one, the top priority in our relationship is state of being.
Okay.
And owning responsibility when triggers come up. And then we have agreements on, okay, if one or the other gets triggered, how do we hold space for each other?
Yeah.
And those agreements can shift, they shift constantly, but it's always an open communication. and stuff
what
continues to come up, but it seems like the downtime is less.
Yeah.
But it is a constant exercise, a balancing act.
Yeah. And you say state of being, and when you talk about state of being, are you talking more so about each individual state of being, or the two as one?
Well, first and foremost, our own personal state of being.
Yeah.
And that is so interesting in this relationship, is that you see an instant reflection. If I'm feeling off, if I'm not able to keep it together, I see that an instant reflection in my partner.
So if you're feeling off, in other words, he's feeling off?
Yeah, so I see that reflection. And there's moments, you know, when there's more resilience, or you have a little bit of reserve built up, you can take more. If the other partner's triggered, you can just hold the space a little bit longer. And when both of you are tired, or something happened, or something financial came up, then it's just a little bit more tricky. But the agreement is still, you know, we're willing to work on it, and we're willing to talk about it.
Yeah. And so you have these retreats, what, 2, 3, 4 times a year in Sedona?
I actually shifted to 1 retreat a year. So the retreat is coming up in May. And because I'm offering a teacher training program, and that is taking up a lot of my time. So I'm training people to do the work that I do. And we started the beginning of this month. And it's an amazing deep dive. It's so freaking awesome just to see how there's always layers. It's like it's cycling back. And the deeper we dive into understanding what our clients are going through, so that we can hold space, our own stuff starts bubbling up as well. So that is the primary goal in this teacher training, is to work on our own stuff first. Because if we are not completely finished with deep shadows inside of us, we're going to project that onto our clients, and we're going to use our clients and make assumptions. And the deeper we understand, like, okay, there's still a little bit of trauma left in me, but I'm working on it, then we won't get triggered by our clients, and we'll just be better question askers, space holders. So that's a fascinating journey that I'm on right now with a small group. We're 8 or 9 in the group, teacher trainers.
It sounds like what you're describing is the same thing as you and your partner.
Yes, it's like
as you're working, where you're specifically, you remind me of a group I know here, a friend of mine, and she has 3 or 4 daughters, you know, and they meet for 4.5 years, and they go through different courses. That's what they call them. So you're saying that as things come up in another person across the room from you, or in your space, or in your group, that it's actually going to pull something up in yourself as well. This is very complicated. It's very complicated.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's a very simplified. You could say what you send out, you get back.
Yeah.
And then I would like to add to that, what you judge will keep showing up in your life as well. So if I have any judgment towards my partner, or he has any judgments towards me, that's where the trouble comes in. So that's things that we work on a lot, is dropping judgment and allowing each individual to be fully expressed.
Yeah.
And then you just radiate that out. Then you start practicing that with other people.
That's where I'm at today. I was having this conversation today, and I'm observing some things and sharing some things that I'd seen, and just with the energies lately, that, you know, it's like, okay, first of all, telepathy is expanding. It's always been there. We're tuning in. We don't have to explain so much we don't have to explain so much. It seems like the more we talk, the more we screw it up. I mean, if this is about unconditional love and unconditional trust, especially the closer the relationship, and you are, because we look at the mirrors and we say, okay, they are a mirror, you're a mirror of me. and we think about like what you're talking about in the context of what I haven't seen in myself. But what about the other side of it? What about the other side of it? What about what an incredible individual the other person is and I am? And can they not find their way? Have we not moved into a different, higher vibration now where, I'm not going to say the shadows go away, but that we can focus somewhat on what the positive aspect or what the supernatural aspect and divine aspect of the partner is versus digging for the shadow, or if there is something uncomfortable, facilitating the healing through what is going to sustain and what is versus what is illusion.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
That's beautiful. Yeah. And I think it's definitely both. It's not like we're digging. It automatically comes up. You don't have to dig. You don't have to dig. Yeah. And I do really believe from the core of my being that you can be together in a relationship that is just in alignment with your higher purpose, and that you're here to help and assist each other in being the best that you possibly can be. So that's definitely one of the agreements. Absolutely. And I'm just saying that, you know, the shadow will pop up when it pops up, and then it's how you deal with it.
Yeah. And how you deal with it is how you deal with it. I mean, how do you deal with it? I mean, if something comes up in me, and I'm just trying to understand this. I mean, if something comes up in me, does that mean if something comes up in I see something in you, then that means there's something, that same something is in me. And this is where you get back to the judgment thing. Can we get to a conscious level? Are we being supported by the universe at this point in this transition to I lost my train of thought. You go ahead. Save me.
I think we're getting there. It's just owning it, taking responsibility, and when you feel that judgment come up, dealing with it. Like, okay, why am I judging this? And dropping the judgment. Yes.
That's what I was meaning. So I guess what I'm saying is this is just me. It seems to me that we're moving from a very verbal, let's explain, let's hash it out, let's talk about this, and then versus moving into, I can say higher ground or more ascended or more awake or whatever you want to call it, more aware, where there's less verbalization, where there's more internal thought kept within oneself. Okay. In dealing with it that way, cleansing your energy or stabilizing your energy field, which will then be picked up by the other one automatically with less words or no words at all.
Yeah, if you can always return to, I'm going to open my heart, I'm going to be loving. And that used to be my mantra in the beginning of this relationship was, keep your heart open, keep your heart open, keep your heart open. Mm-hmm. And that was really important to me, because when I was single, it was easier for me not to step into judgment, because I could go into my cocoon and I had all my crystals and all my sacred geometry, everything set up the way I wanted it to be. And then I could just retreat into my own little cocoon. But in a relationship, it's like, okay, I am now required to really drop judgment.
Yeah. Which really is the most intricate circle in your life, which really is applicable to every single person you come across, even in the parking lot at Whole Foods Market.
Yes.
And the crazy woman pulls up next to you and says, hey, no, but seriously, I mean, it really is the same thing. It just seems to me that things have changed and are moving so fast, especially over the last few weeks, that I don't know. It's just like you said, I don't even know what the difference between an opinion and a judgment is at this point. I'm looking at it going, okay, do I need to say anything? I'm just finding more and more, whether it be in my relationship with my partner or anybody else, the less I say, the better it is. Allow the energy to take care of itself. But to your point, if we know when something's making us uncomfortable, now we can either say they did that, or why am I feeling this? You know, and that's not an easy thing. We've all been through this. It's very difficult sometimes to take that focus off an external versus putting it onto ourselves. But I think we've gotten to a point now where we've gone past a certain tipping point where the universe is actually saying, look, you don't have to go down this road of digging and digging. And what I mean by digging is, what is this? Why did this happen? Why is this present in my field? Versus, I have enough awareness now to actually clear this out in my internal dialogue, in my internal space, and that will take care of everything around me. That will attract to me and transform in me, and therefore create that same energy outside of my field. I don't know. Is it changing? You have clients. You've had clients a long time. Do you see the level of comprehension, awareness, and ability to transform being raised in your clients?
I do feel we have some momentum going, and the people that are jumping on the train are now on the fast track. So it is easier to jump on it. But again, it goes back to what is programmed in our subconscious. So if we are running our lives tapping into that subconscious programming, we will get triggered, and we will judge, and we will feel less self-love or self-worth. So that's part of the things that I do with clients, is bringing all of that subconscious programming into the conscious realm. And then actually what I do with clients is I always compare it to a computer. It's like, okay, you got these programs on your computer, and sometimes there's viruses.
Yeah.
This virus is not going to show itself just on your desktop, like, oh, let me remove it. You will have to go digging, and you'll have to have somebody know something about it to find it, to retrieve it, and then to delete the virus, which could be a limiting belief, which could be anything that you picked up from your parents, from your grandparents, from your teachers. And up until the age of 6 years old, children are almost like in a hypnotic trance state. So everything they hear, everything they see, everything they experience goes straight to the subconscious. So a lot of the times the clients that want to work on their trauma, when their triggers come up, they're basically going back to the age of 6 years old or maybe younger. Something that happened then that wasn't processed, that wasn't dealt with at that time, just keep showing up. So what we do is, when we look at the birth story with people, is it's such an interesting process to look at, okay, what happened when you were in the womb of your mother? What was going on with your mother? What was going on in the family? What was the belief systems? What was the beliefs around sexuality, around finances, safety, security? And then see how that keeps cycling back into your life, even as an adult. Oh yeah, that keeps cycling. That I'm actually recreating my birth story over and over and over again. Or there's some kind of energy in the family lineage, something that has to do with disease or poverty or not being accomplished. So that's where we go. We go into the subconscious to see what got programmed.
Right. Right. Yeah, I get that. And I know that shadow work, what we call shadow work and inner work, or at least the 5.5 years I've been online with a laptop, where I've actually interacted and been able to see people's work and their expressions. That's been the biggest part of the journey. That's been the whole story of the empath and the narcissist, and the empath gaining their power and not taking on somebody else's energy. And it just seems like it's elevated toward the end of last year, and certainly this year, that we're in a different situation now. Information, healing, wisdom, love, everything's expanding and moving faster and faster and faster. And what worked yesterday doesn't work today. And what applied yesterday doesn't apply today. And I'm just wondering if there's not enough light for someone who is conscious enough and aware enough within themselves. With the whole thing about, working that out internally. If I see it in this other person, and yes, it happens to us every day. You know, I talk about it a lot on the show. I saw this post and this person said something to me, and you know, I used to do this and I used to do that, and now I just virtually say nothing. It's been a very slow process. It's been one like everything. It's an ebb and a flow. But do you see this in your practice? Do you see people becoming less judgmental? They're not having to work as hard, you know, and the consequences of that. Do you see this happening on a collective?
Absolutely. When I do a 5-day retreat, people come in at the beginning of the 5 days. When they step out, they're like a new version of themselves.
Yeah.
So much can happen in only 5 days time.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what I wanted to say is that I'm working on the back end. So what my goal is to bring it to people's consciousness, how we bring children into the world. It's about conscious conception, conscious pregnancy, conscious birthing experiences. Because I can see with 99% of my clients that it all happened when they were in the womb or when they were children. So I really feel like there's a whole new species of children coming in that are ready to change this world in one generation. But the community, the larger community, has to be ready. So what I'm doing is I'm working on the back end. I'm working on people's PTSD and childhood trauma so that they will not pass that on to their children or their grandchildren. So I'm working to open it up to the greater community to be ready for these new children that will be coming into existence. And, you know, I know a lot of people are talking about, oh, there will be a new species and they will be coming in spaceships. I feel that the healed wombs of the mothers will be the spaceships that are bringing in these new species.
Do you think that the children coming in, well, that's probably a dumb question. I was going to say, do you think they're coming in? They're obviously less tainted. They talk about crystal children, diamond children, all that stuff. But going back to what you're saying, even if they are, if the universe that's carrying them, that's carrying the new universe coming in, the womb, can be a more fertile place to continue that untainted frequency and vibration that they're coming into, or can be damaged, even in this.
Because just imagine that the children, when they come in with parents that have done their own shadow work and they don't pass anything conscious or unconsciously onto their children, those kids do not have to work through all of that stuff. They just hit the ground running. Where with clients, where I see, and even in my own case, I mean, I had to work 40 plus years to transcend this childhood trauma, which in a way paused my own evolution.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
So if we can create a world where those children don't have to work through all their trauma, because we're not imposing that trauma upon them, because we've healed our own trauma, that would be a whole different world.
Yeah. Now, somebody's asking for you to explain more about your retreat. And is it full? I mean, do you have spots open? Is there
I still have some spots open, yeah.
How many people do you have come?
Usually I top it off at 30 people. So I have still 10 spots left.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's in Sedona?
It's in Sedona. We start May 1st up until May 5th. And I have a yoga teacher coming in. She'll be doing morning yoga. We have somebody doing sacred geometry. I'm going to do breath work. We'll be doing the soul rebirthing, sexual de-armouring, transgenerational and ancestral healing, inner child work. It's going to be a full program.
Who's the yoga teacher? I'm just curious.
Is Lydie Ometa?
I don't know.
I
met quite a few people when I was there for a few.
Well, she's actually flying in from Smoky Mountains, Tennessee, because we met each other at a training for breathwork. and we had an instant connection. And so she's going to be helping me with the breath work as well. Amazing woman from Brazilian descent and amazing teacher. Yes.
Does your partner work with you in this field?
No, that's something we keep that separate. And we do feel that in the future we'll be doing more like relationship workshops. That's something that's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, some type of collaboration is what I was getting at. Yes. Not necessarily. So does your partner do any type of practitionership or anything like that? Or is it a...
He's like a wise shaman.
Okay.
And right now, the way our life is set up right now, he is spending his time doing other things. But I think in the next maybe 6 to 12 months, he'll be coming out more with his own work. And I think, the world will be blessed with that.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. That's why I said I think we need to start looking at the mirrors of these unions. And I say unions, I'm talking about any two people that you resonate with. Doesn't have to be romantic all the time. And start looking at least give as much weight to what is positive, what is what is the elevating light, because it is all, we'll oftentimes look at somebody and think, I wish I was like that, right? Or hold them in a higher regard in a certain aspect or a certain frequency they carry, and not just, and what we know is going to come, like you said, the shadows they're going to come up. It's going to come up. That's just the way it is. It has to, in order for us to elevate, so we can clear more space.
Yes.
Well, I'm just going to put it out there. So if and when it ever resonates, I'd love to have you and your partner come on when he's ready to come out.
Okay, that's good.
Because I think, we've had couples come on. It's a vibration that people need to be exposed to, every part of it. And these things that we talk about in this transition that we don't have the answers for, that we're figuring out, they come through our experience and we retell our stories. So I think that's really important. And I would be more than happy to support that. Soulogy would be more than happy to support that.
Oh, thank you.
You guys need a little assistance.
Beautiful. Thanks.
Okay. So now where can people find out about the retreat?
Well, I have a website. It's just my name, sandrarolus.com. And on the website, you can click on live retreats, and then you'll see the retreat in May in Sedona.
Okay.
And I work a lot with people online. Most of the clients that I have are online. Like I said in the beginning of the show, coming from Belgium, where I had more private clients coming to my practice and having twice a week a workshop with people. Here in Sedona, it's more people coming from out of town. So I have private clients come into town that do a VIP day with me, or I have online clients. And then because I'm doing the teacher training program right now and it's taking up a lot of my time, I've switched back from 2 Shakti retreats to 1 a year. Mm-hmm. And that's the one in May.
Yeah. And that was my next question. Do you work with clients online? They can find you at the same website, sandrarolus.com.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
And I wanted to add one more thing, that the sexual de-armoring that I offer is without touching and no nudity. So because I work with a lot of people that had sexual trauma or felt sexually unsafe, it's a low threshold. It's something that they can feel comfortable with, because sometimes when you have sexual trauma and you do any kind of sexual healing and you do not feel safe, I'm not saying that the practitioner or the facilitator is not offering a safe space, but maybe the person themselves do not feel safe, that can cause a trauma upon trauma. And that's something that I want to avoid. And we can go just as deep, keeping our clothes on and not touching.
I wasn't aware that they took their clothes off.
Well, in some sexual healing practices, there is nudity involved and physical touch. Yes.
I did not know that. Well, I really appreciate it. I'm so happy I finally got to meet you and the mysterious woman in the parking lot. And I hope to get back over there sometime, and I'd love to collaborate with you and or the both of you, and even if and when he's ready and would like to do something one-on-one with him.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Please give him my best and my best to you, and thank you so much for sharing space with us today and honoring us with your presence.
Oh, thank you so much, Todd. Thanks everybody for watching.
All right, you take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.